Hi everybody, and welcome to another part of the JavaScript tutorials. In this part we're going to talk about local storage. Local storage in JavaScript is a feature that allows web applications to store data locally on a user's computer, and it is a key value storage system that can be accessed by JavaScript code running in the browser. Local storage is persistent, meaning that data stored in it will remain even after the browser is closed or the computer is turned off. This makes it useful for storing user preferences, session data, and other information that needs to persist between the visits to a website. Local storage is supported by all modern web browsers and can be accessed using local storage object in JavaScript. So in this part we're going to cover one of the examples that are very famous, and we had this login form before, as you can remember. So we're going to use the local storage and also DOM in order to set a default value according to the local storage right over here. So as you can remember, we had the default values in the login form, but here we're going to also set the default value each time according to the user preferences. So for example, the user saves some data inside of our database, and then here, because we're not covering the backend, we consider that we get the data somehow from the backend or the API, and then we have that data in a key value pair like this. So as you can see, I have commented out the JavaScript code because I'm going to first explain every one of the properties inside of the local storage, and then explain how we can set that default value using DOM and local storage, so that every time that you even turn off your computer or you close your browser, you will be able to see that the data is still stored in there and is set as a default value inside of your own specific browser. So in order to do so, first of all, you need to create your login form using this login form HTML code that you can see. We've added the value here as empty here as well, because for every user this might be different, and it will be saved inside of the local storage of that specific browser of that specific user's computer. So here we have the login form. And so let's get started with local storage. As you can see, first of all, I have cleared the local storage here. We're not gonna work on that, but the first thing we need to do first is the local storage set item, which is going to save the item that we're looking for, whether it's just one object, just a simple string, or it's a key value pair inside of the object. For example, the name, the location, the job, or whatever data you want to put in. So you first define that, and then you save the data to the local storage by using the set item property. And you can also query the data by using the get item property. And if you want to clear all the data inside of your local storage, you can use clear. You can also remove each one of the data one by one, not all together. So we're gonna get to that part, but in this project we're going to first of all save some data. So imagine that here I save some kind of data like this, in only the name in the string format, and also I define an object. This is not necessary for this part of our tutorial about the login form. We're only gonna work with this name, so we're gonna save this to the local storage, and then here we have this local storage set item. And once you save this to the local storage, you can comment this part and do not use it anymore, because it is already saved inside of your local storage. And then if you want to query the name here, you can run console.log and then local storage.get item and name. Here the first attribute of the set item property is name. So here you can set anything. The name of this string is name. So whenever you want to query that data or see what that is, you can simply write name. Or if the item that you have saved here is called user, and if you want to get it, you can query that data using user, right? So this is the name of the data that is stored inside of the database, or it's not a database, it's just some kind of data that is stored in your browser. So anyway, let's first of all query that data. by uncommenting this line. So you can just write these two lines and first of all save it, and then see what it is right over here. So let me save this and make the window smaller so that you can also see the browser. Now I'm gonna inspect the elements, and inside of my console you will see that Jimmy Kimmel is the name that appears here because we've saved the name right over here, named Jimmy Kimmel. So now what I'm gonna do here is to also use DOM here in order to first of all query the data with the name index or name or key value, and then here inside of my DOM document.getElement by tag name, the tag name is input, and I want to set it as the default value of the username inside of this login form for this specific user. For example, I am Jimmy Kimmel, so I want to log in. I have this login form, so I want this value to appear here. Notice that in the real world we're not doing this, okay, but this is just an example. So what we're gonna do is to put a value, and the value of it is empty. So if here I uncomment this line right over here, so let me uncomment this and save this, and as you can see, Jimmy Kimmel appears here as the username. So this is just an example, and I repeat this again, this is not applicable in the real world, or we do not generally do this in the real world. However, we can do this just as you can see in this example, but we don't generally do this. So if you want to also put it inside of your console, you can write this line of code. And if you want to clear all the data right over here, let me uncomment this line. It will clear all of the local storage, even if the ones that you have already stored and you don't want them to clear, this line will clear them all. So be really careful if you want to completely clear all of the data and remove them, all of them from your local storage. Use this line. We have also another line for deleting one specific item, which I'm gonna get to that later. So let me make this a bit smaller and see what we have inside of the console. So I've saved this. Let me save this, and oh, we are instead of here. So let me save this, and let me cancel this one as well. Now here we have cleared the item, so and we can also comment all of the lines all together. So let me comment all of these parts together and save the code. As you can see, Jimmy Kimmel has been removed from the console because we have nothing here. Also, let me uncomment the console log because we're gonna see if there's any item. So actually I need to uncomment this line so that we make sure there's no data. As you can see, null appears, which means that we have no such data because that data instead of my local storage has been removed. So now let me uncomment all of these lines all together. Actually, because some of them are commented twice, I need to remove all of them altogether. So let me do this very quickly. And so uncomment all of these, and also this one, and let's make the lines also a bit more organized right over here. And okay, there we go. But it doesn't matter in JavaScript whether you do that or not. So let me save this, and as you can see here, let me explain a bit more of what happened. We've added this line of code for we've just defined a person with some specific properties. It's just an object, or what we say in other languages like Python, a dictionary, whatever you name it. But here this is that kind of object with key value pairs. However, instead of the local storage, we have this key value pair as well. So in general, it will become an object with two level of key value pairs. One of them is the user. Here we've added that, and this JSON right over here has been stringified, and we've called this person. So JSON stringify person. Person has been stringified to become a JSON. And then we have this user as the name of this string, which is now the object that has been stringified. And then we will console.log the user at the end so that you can see that. Notice that we're not using this for the logging form. This is just an example for you to see that you do not need to necessarily just save a data like this. You can also save it this way in order to have a bigger object with more amount of data. So now let's take a look at our console, and as you will see, as you can see here, we have Jimmy Kimmel, and we have this object with all of these specific data that we've stored. Now imagine that I want to remove one of these data right over here before I want to console.log that item right over here. So for example, I want to remove the name, or I want to remove the person, no matter which one. So here I'm going to use this specific window.local storage, and then I'm going to use remove item, remove item, and then I'm going to use here the attribute the user. So no, actually the name, because I want to remove this one. So let me save this, and you will see that this one is for this one when we want to console.log the user, because there's no data with that a specific key, we have null, but for the second one we still have the data. So using the remove item, you can only delete one of the keys, but you can keep the other ones be there for you. But the clear will remove all of the data that you have stored inside of the local storage. So that's the difference between the clear and remove item. Also notice that, so first of all, let me uncomment this line. Also notice that you want to after all of this, you want to see what kind of keys we have inside of our local storage. So I can console.log, and then here I'm going to use window.local storage, and here I'm going to use .key in order to see what kind of keys we have. And then here, instead of the parentheses, I can enter the number of that specific index. So for example, index 0. So let me save this, and as you can see, the index 0 is name, but if I use index 1 and save this, you will see that it's user. And let's see whether we have index 2. Let's save this. As you can see, it's null because we don't have index 2. So we have only two keys right over here, the user and the name. The name is the first one, the user is the second one. So as you can see, we've used the key as well. So that's it for all of the properties of the local storage. And I want to close this part with 3 insights about the local storage. So there are some precautions that you need to make whenever you want to use the local storage. First of all, do not store sensitive user information in local storage. And notice that it is not a substitute for a server-based database, as information is only stored on the browser. And local storage is limited to 5 megabytes across all major browsers, so you cannot store a lot of data inside of it, and it cannot be an alternative for your database. Also, local storage is quite insecure, as it has no form of data protection and can be accessed by any code on your web page. And notice that local storage is synchronous, meaning that each operation called would only execute one after the other. So whenever you want to use asynchronous functions or whatever like that, you need to make sure, you need to be really careful, because we have each one of these operations one after the other, so it is synchronous. So anyway, that's it for this part of the tutorial, and until the next one, goodbye.